as we're getting ready to do our narrative project, a lot of you guys are talking about, that you want to do something kind of in that magic hour, late evening, time of day. And we might need some supplemental lighting. And so what I wanted to do today is go over a quick little DIY project so that we can create a light source that will actually be more flattering, have a little bit more control. Because the thing is, we want to be outside, and a lot of you guys want to be in nature and other sorts of things. So I think a really great light source could be something like this, which is just like a regular old flashlight. And this is just like a cheapy 99-cent flashlight from Walmart. And, it's got quite a bit of a light for being so small. If you've got other ones big, obviously the bigger the flashlight you have, the brighter it's going to be, which will then be, lower ISO or faster shutter speeds, those sort of things. So, but no matter what, as long as we've got some sort of flashlight, we should be able to do this project. So let's just go ahead and jump in. We're just going to do a couple of things that are going to help us give a little bit more control to the light and a little bit more softness to the light, because these can be pretty harsh and they're pretty hard light sources. So we want to kind of soften the light a little bit. So if we do things like portraits, that we can still illuminate them but also have nice light on them. So let's take a quick look. We've got a couple of options of how we might do this. So I'm going to clear a couple of these things out. We're going to start with this one actually. So I think that, if we start off with something like this, so this is just like a insert from a cereal bag, which kind of what we used in the beginning of the year when we started doing our camera obscuras. And what we can do is just actually, we need some structure. So I'm just going to take this and kind of open it up a little bit so it has some bulk to it. And I could just use something like this and put my light in there. And what it'll do is that as the light starts to refract, it's starting to bounce around here and it's starting to illuminate that. But it might be better if we also maybe put a little bit more diffusion on there. So we could just take something like this. This is like a little produce bag, and it'll add another layer of some softness to it to help kind of diffuse it. Something like that could work great. And this holds a little bit of air. It makes it a little bit bigger. And this whole thing will kind of illuminate, and we'll use this to be able to do some lighting. We'll take a look outside. The other thing that I was experimenting with is sometimes too, like I might be doing something where it's evening, so I've got like this warmth, like tungsten lights. So I might want to balance that out a little bit. So this was like a little like doggy bag, and it's got a green cast to it. We could use other colors too. So I'm just going to slide this over as well. And that'll add another layer of diffusion, and it also will shift that color a little bit and give it a little bit more of a green to it. And again, so now you can kind of see that light's illuminating through there quite a bit. Let's see if I turn off really quick these lights. There we go. And so, we'll be able to use this. We can see it's glowing pretty well as it illuminates that part. And, we'll be able to use that for lighting once we get outside and it starts to get a little bit darker. So that's one method. The next method, let's go ahead and turn that off. We could do something like that. So maybe I don't have a cereal bag and grocery bags, but maybe I've got like a kitchen bag here. This one already, we know it's gonna be white, and it's gonna be a little bit larger. And I'm just gonna kind of open it up and maybe try to catch some air in it, maybe even blow some air in it. So then that'll kind of give it some structure as well. And then the idea is we can then take our light source and put it through there, and it'll start to illuminate that. So something like that could work. Final idea, I was thinking I've got something like this. This is a container for like a protein powder sort of a thing. So I don't know how much light. It looks like light's getting through there though, so it might cut quite a bit more light than something like this. So maybe if you've got a really powerful flashlight, it could work well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut a hole at the top of this. And I want it to be a pretty tight fit, so I'm just gonna put this on top. It was a little more brittle, so it ended up kind of snapping there, but that's not a big deal. So then hopefully maybe that'll even actually help me a little bit so I can get that down in there. But now it's illuminating that part, and we'll have to see when we get outside how that works, if it's cutting out too much of that light or if it's gonna work okay. So again, the main idea, at least especially for you guys, is just be creative, be innovative, look around, take these ideas, but expand them or change them, you know, use tissue paper, make something out of paper, you know, whatever it takes. But we want something that's got a little bit of structure so that the light can then fill that area. And then the bigger, the size is, just like we talked about with the reflectors, the bigger that area is, the more it's going to be able to bounce that light around inside of there and spread it out. And so instead of it being a small light source, which creates hard, sharp shadows, it'll be a larger one, especially if we keep it close. Then again, it's large relative to the subject, so it'll be even bigger, which will create even softer light. So we'll go outside. It's almost dark now, so as soon as it gets dark, we'll go outside and test these really quick and see how they work. So one other quick idea is we might want to also add some color to some of the pictures that we're taking instead of it just being white light. And we talked about maybe using like the green bag, which could possibly work. Another thing that we could try is to just go ahead and, I'm going to pull up here, go ahead and use some colored pens and just, you know, maybe make a couple of, you know, like a couple little squares of, you know, of each color. And so I'm just going to go over here, you know, I'm just going to maybe go like this and color this in. And it probably doesn't even need to be this big, but still, we'll just go ahead. We're going with it. It doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But, you know, we want it to be relatively solid because otherwise white light's getting through there, which will then desaturate it slightly. Good enough. So there's our red. And then I'm just going to do the same with green and blue. So in photography, we use what's called the additive color system. So anything that's going to be illuminated is going to be something called, it says RGB, which is red, green, and blue. And those are the primary colors that make up all the colors as far as photography is concerned. So then we'll do this next one. I'm just going to do green right next to it. All right, and then last but not least is blue. I'm just going to do blue over here next to the red. So there we go. And then those might need a few seconds to go ahead and finish drying. But the basic idea is then what I can do is then put the flashlight through there, and it should create kind of a red light coming out of there, which might then paint, you know, like point it towards me, you know, to adding that color to it. And because I've got all three of the colors, I can add them together. So I could, you know, once these dry, I could shine it through red and blue. Red and blue make another color called magenta. And then I could do red and green, you know, and those are gonna make yellow, and so on. So I could use them in combination if I wanted to, you know, or just use them separately. So, you know, or even shine them kind of part way through. So at least we'll be able to play around with those and see what those other colors might give us.